Welcome at Pizza and More. Are you tired of kneading always your pizza dough? Or maybe you don't want to invest in a very expensive kneading or kitchen machine? My name is Jürgen and we make together a pizza dough without kneading, so a no knead dough, but this dough will be at the end very fantastic and very nice and really elastic. Well, what happens during kneading? Of course, we mix all the ingredients. This is also what we will do right now, but not while kneading, only with a wooden spoon or with our hands. The next, what happens during kneading? We knead the dough, so we bring our power into the dough, and over the time, the gluten structure will be built. And as you know, we need the gluten structure because if we have a nice and strong gluten structure, this keeps the air inside of the dough so that we have afterwards a very fluffy and airy crust, and it keeps the water inside of the dough so that the dough is not that sticky as it could be. As I said, we don't knead our dough, so you might think, well, how should the gluten structure be built? But we build our gluten structure through stretch and fold, so you might know what stretch and fold is. We stretch the dough, we fold it over, we stretch it and we fold it. We give the dough enough time to rest, and during the time and through to stretch and fold, the gluten structure is also built. However, we won't do the stretch and fold over the whole leavening time. No, only 3 or 4 times, always with half an hour or so in between, and that's enough. The ingredients we use for this dough are exactly the same like for a dough we knead normally. So we have flour, we have water, we have yeast, and we have salt. And as we make a dough now with a leavening time of 48 hours, I decided to use a strong flour so I use a flour of type 00 with 13% of protein and a W value of 300 to 320. If we want to have not 48 hours leavening time, if you want to make it within 24 hours, then I would recommend to use a not that strong flour. So maybe then use a flour with a W value of 260, 280. Today we make a dough with a hydration of 65%, which is great because we have a strong flour. This strong flour is easily able to cover 65%. Better would be 70% because then the stretch and fold is also easier to do if we have more water in the dough. But some of you might struggle with 70%. That's the reason why we take 65%. And now I would say we start directly. And here you can see our ingredients, which I already told you what we have. We have here the flour type 00, 13% of protein, a W value of 300 to 320, and this is 500 grams. I have here 325 grams of cold water. It does not need to be very cold because we don't knead the dough, so the dough won't be too warm at the end. I have here 15 grams of fine sea salt and 0.4 grams of dry yeast. You might think it's very low amount of yeast. You are right, but as we have 48 hours leavening time, this is enough. If you want to use fresh yeast, then use 1.2 grams. For creating the dough, we need now a bowl, and we directly pour all the water into the bowl. If you want to use fresh yeast, then please dissolve the fresh yeast right now in the water. But we use dry yeast, and therefore we add now a third of the flour, round about a third. If it's a bit more, a bit less, it doesn't matter. And now we add also our yeast, and then we use a wooden spoon or something like this and mix this a bit up. It's not necessary that everything is dissolved right now. It's only to bring already the yeast together in connection with the flour. And now we add our salt, and this is to avoid bringing the yeast in direct contact with the salt. However, maybe it's only a rumor, I don't know. But at some point I will make the test. I will add the salt directly with the yeast, and then we make other dough where we have the yeast and the salt not in direct contact, and then we compare both those, and then we know it if this is only a rumor or if it's the truth. But now we add the salt, and then we mix again until the salt is good dissolved. And now we add the rest of the flour. And we mix this up until all loose ingredients are in one bowl. And then after a minute or two, if every flour is inside of the dough ball, it's enough. We take a spatula or something like this and clean a little bit this wooden spoon. And then we cover this bowl and let the dough rest for 30 minutes at room temperature, or we use a dough ball box, put a little bit of olive oil on the bottom, and then we add, or we put our dough into this box, because if the bottom of the box is a bit covered with oil, afterwards the stretch and fold is easier. And then we put a lid onto the box and cover our dough from drying out, and we let it now rest, as said, for 30 minutes. And now, after the first 30 minutes, we do the first time stretch and fold. However, these 30 minutes could also be 60 minutes, it doesn't matter. It depends how you have time, but 30 minutes is the minimum, and then we do now the first time stretch and fold. And to make now stretch and fold, it's the easiest if we cover one hand with water. We can use also olive oil, it doesn't matter, or even nothing, then it sticks a bit more. But with water it is absolutely great. And for stretch and fold, we take our dough, we pull it into the length, so we stretch it, and then we fold it over. And we do this exactly around the circle. And then if we done it, then we turn the dough, and you can directly see the structure here of this dough is directly a total different one as it was before. And now again we close the lid. Yeah, and now you saw, because we covered the bottom of the box a little bit with olive oil, the dough didn't stick onto the bottom, and it was easier to take the dough and to fold it over. This exercise we did now, we will repeat for 3 to 4 times, always with around 30 minutes in between, or maybe 60 minutes in between. The total leavening time right now at room temperature should be around 2 hours. That's the reason why I said let it rest for 30 minutes to stretch and fold, let it rest for 30 minutes, stretch and fold, and so on. And then after the last time stretch and fold, if we did it 3 to 4 times, after 2 hours or so, we cover again the box. So always the box needs to be closed, and then we put the box into the fridge and we let the box in the fridge for around 22 hours. In the meanwhile, I made 4 times stretch and fold, and always between each stretch and fold I had 30 minutes resting time for the dough. And if you make the dough also in the same way, you will see from each time to the another, when you make stretch and fold, the structure of the dough changes, and now the structure from this dough is really almost the same, and it is the same like we knead the dough either with a machine or with our hands. The total leavening time from making the dough up to now was for me around 24 hours, but this time is really not set in stone. If you have time to make the pizza balls after 18 hours or after 20 hours, after 30 or 36 hours, it really doesn't matter. Make your pizza balls how it fits into your time plan. It's only a rough idea that we share, or that we divide the total leavening time in 24 hours bulk fermentation, and then the next 24 hours in the ball fermentation. But as I said, it's not that important that you really be strict on the time. The only thing what I would recommend to make the dough balls minimum 8 hours before you bake the pizza, because then the dough has enough time to get relaxed. Otherwise it might be possible that the dough is too stressed anymore, or still so that we have no possibility to create a nice pizza. Then it might go always back like a gummy. I have the dough now already on the counter, and we make now 3 pizza balls. Each pizza ball will have around 280 to 290 grams. All my pizza doughs or all my pizza balls now have a weight of around 290 grams, and now we make the nice shape. If you want to see the several versions how I showed how to make a pizza ball, please have a look on some of my other videos. But the most preferred way to make a pizza ball from me is to take the ball and to always to stretch from the top to the bottom the dough, and then bring the dough into the bottom. You can also do it here, and then you press the bottom so that the ball is closed, and then the pizza ball is ready and needs to be placed back into the box. And here are the 3 balls in the box. And now one thing is again very important. Take the lid and close the box. And now we take the dough directly back into the fridge. When I took earlier the dough out of the fridge, I directly made the dough balls now. There was no time to bring the dough again on room temperature. So I took the dough directly out of the fridge. We place the dough now, as I said, in the fridge, and we let it there for around 20 hours. And 4 hours before baking, we take the dough out of the fridge. This time 4 hours depends a little bit on the room temperature you have. If you have around 25 degrees, then maybe 2 or 1 hours are enough. If it has only 18 degrees, then I would take the dough out 8 to 6 hours before baking. So it depends always a bit on the room temperature you have. One word to the cheese you might use. If you use mozzarella or even fior di latte, which is in this salty water, then please open the bag, take the mozzarella or the fior di latte out of this salty water, cut it directly into sticks or into slices and put them into a sieve so that all the liquid can go out and we have afterwards a relatively dry cheese. Otherwise we have all this liquid and all this water on our pizza. After we created the dough balls, my dough was now for around 20 hours in the fridge. Exactly 4 hours ago, I took the dough balls out of the fridge so that they have the possibility to get to room temperature and to raise a bit more. They did it. It's fantastic. The room temperature actually is here around 22, 23 degrees. That's the reason why I thought, let's take them out 4 hours before baking, and it's absolutely good. They are ready now for baking. I already prepared all our toppings. I have here San Marzano tomatoes. As you might know, I use the San Marzano tomatoes. I smash them by hand and then I add only 4 grams of fine sea salt. I mix it up, ready. If you want, you can add also a bit of olive oil and some leaves of fresh basil. And I already did this as well, and this tastes also fantastic. Or you could also add any herbs or whatever, like garlic or whatever, into the pizza sauce. Do whatever you want. This one here is the real Neapolitan one. And if you want to know everything around the tomatoes and about the Neapolitan pizza sauce, then please watch my video. I made already one and this is linked in the video description. And I have here some fior di latte, I have here olive oil, fresh basil, so I'm well prepared to make now our pizza. Maybe you saw already my video how to take out the dough balls, or maybe you saw already some other videos from me. The detailed behavior, how to take out the dough balls out of the box and how to stretch your pizza. I made already a video of it. This is also linked in the video description. But for now, I say quickly what I do. I take semolina and I put semolina over the top of this dough ball I want to take out. And then I take my spatula. I release the dough ball where it's attached to another dough ball or where it's attached to the side of the box. And one important thing is we have to be very careful, very gentle to the dough. We shouldn't stress the dough, otherwise if the dough is stressed, we can't stretch the pizza anymore. I lift it out with the spatula and I put it into a semolina bed, and then I close the box to protect the remaining dough balls from the air, from drying out, and then I flip this dough ball several times in the semolina bed, and then I take it out onto my counter. We also could add here some semolina onto the counter, but then I have all the semolina here, so I have it here in my box. I close the lid of this box and then it's done. For stretching the pizza is important to press only from the center towards the crust. All the air, if you see here directly thick bubbles or big bubbles, you can open them, otherwise they will burn. Then we flip the dough around and we do exactly the same. We don't press onto the crust. When we then have stretched our pizza, we take at first our tomato sauce, add that much tomatoes as we want. As next we add some fresh grated grana padano or parmesan. Then some leaves of fresh basil and our mozzarella fior di latte. And at the end we put some olive oil onto the pizza. And then the pizza is ready for the oven. We take our peel, put some semolina onto the peel, lift the dough and push the peel under, and then we stretch the pizza to its final size. And now this pizza is ready for the oven. And here comes our nice margherita without any kneading. And now we add some leaves of fresh basil. And it's done. And yes, of course, we have to have a look if the pizza is really full of air or not. And let's cut into the pizza. And what can we see? It's great and full of air. And now I have the pleasure to taste this nice pizza. But I really know how it will taste. And now please guess, what do you think do I say? Exactly. The pizza tastes fantastic. It's really delicious. And now I taste the crust. And also this crust tastes really very nice and very good, but this is almost clear because we have exactly the same ingredients than with the dough we are kneading. So, but we really have to question ourselves, is it really necessary to buy a very expensive kneading machine or dough machine, or knead 20 minutes or half an hour by hand and sweat? I'm really struggling with this idea because we saw only with stretch and fold, 4 times stretch and fold, we have, and I might say, exactly the same result. So I would recommend, please try this. Only mix your ingredients, let it rest, stretch and fold, rest, stretch and fold, and so on. Repeat all the steps and then try this pizza. If you like my video, it would be fantastic and I would be happy if you would subscribe my channel, because then we see us in the next video. Ciao!